Chris here, and I'm back looking at one of those mini PCs. I reviewed two of them last year. They're from Hystou, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Now, this is the updated model that has the Core i9, the 9880H in it. This takes 2 sticks of DDR4 RAM. You can also install 2 NVMe drives and a 2.5-inch hard drive, so plenty of storage options. It comes with wireless AC. It's got Bluetooth as well incorporated into that wireless card. And now it does not have a dedicated GPU in this, just like the other models. There's no space in such a small, compact little body here. But what it does have with that CPU, of course, is 8 cores and 16 threads. So in this full detailed review, I'll be going over the thermals of it. We'll check it out. We'll see the performance. Are there any limitations like the previous two models? That's what we'll find out. So we'll first take a look at the contents of the box, which is well packaged up, this little mini PC. So they give us, you can see right there, a mouse mat. And the PC itself has a lot of padding around it, as you can see. A CD there with all the drivers we need to run this if you're going to be installing Windows, that is. And we do have the power cable, the power supply, which is rated to 100 watts, VESA mount, and some additional screws for that mount, and also to mount inside a 2.5-inch hard drive or SSD. So if you see my other videos of these particular mini PCs, very compact size, as you can see. It's a little bit bigger than Intel's next unit of computing, but not really by much. So at the back here for ports, this is our power in. Then we've got HDMI 1.4A spec, unfortunately. So this is not HDMI 2.0, but if you want 4K 60 Hz, we do have the mini DisplayPort out at least. 2 USB 3 ports here. Plenty of vents. We've got these two little tiny antennas here for our wireless. Now the wireless card that they include is the Intel Wireless AC3165. So that is also with Bluetooth, okay, incorporated. I think it's just 4.1 spec Bluetooth that has. Do have gigabit LAN, and we've got some vents in the top of the bottom. And you'll see on the top here too that this is just a big open grill with our fan, but we'll take a look at the internals soon because we're going to have to install RAM and our SSD and even an operating system. So this is a bare bones unit as mentioned. Now we do have here some feet, so if you wanted to set it up, you can do that. On the back plate here, you can see we've got the 2 screws there. So this is where you attach that VESA mount if you wanted to mount it on the back of a monitor. And up the front here, we've got the power button with a blue status LED. Now this is just a normal Type-C port, okay? It doesn't support video out, unfortunately, not Thunderbolt, and it's only USB 3 spec, okay, just like those 2 ports there you can see. 3.5mm headphone jack on the right. It does support microphones. More vents right here, and that is it for ports, okay? So for this review, I'm going to be installing 2 sticks of 16 gigabytes of RAM, so giving me 32 gigabytes in total. Just make sure it supports 2666 megahertz or 2400. And then my SSD is a 256 gigabyte Samsung 970 EVO. That is an NVMe drive. So on the underneath, you've just got 4 screws to remove. Also the same with the lid to gain access to the internal. So right here is where one of our RAM sticks will go. So if you've installed or upgraded a laptop's RAM before, this is very straightforward. Very easy, you just slot it in and then clip it down. I will quickly demonstrate right here. You hear that click? That is then in place. So we have a 2280 NVMe slot here on the back as well that will also support SATA. Now the one on the other side, that one is only NVMe, okay? You cannot use SATA in that slot, but this one you can. So in theory, we can add a lot of storage to this particular mini PC. There's also space there to add a 2.5-inch SSD or hard drive, as you can see just above here on the rear of the lid. So the install went straight forward with Windows 10, no problems. Now most of the drivers, in fact all of them, you can pull through apart from one off Windows 10 update. So I'm running, as you can see here, this is version 1909, and that 32 gigabytes is running in dual channel. Now there are some things I wanted to point out, that when I looked at the CPU, it is in fact an engineering sample here, okay? So the 990H, you'll see listed as QS. When CPU-Z pops up, it will tell me that. So you can see right here, ES, sorry. So this is engineering sample of that 9880H. So for that reason, I think it doesn't turbo up quite as high as it should when stressed. So I wanted to jump straight into this. Now the power limit out of the box is actually 60 watts right here and 55. If you were to increase this, you'd gain really absolutely nothing. And it seems to have a lot of what is labeled as
current limit throttling. So I'll stress the cores now just to demonstrate. But the thermals and the fan noise on this unit, just like the two other ones I reviewed, also with notebook 45 watt CPUs in them, fantastic fan noise, okay? Really, really good. You hardly ever hear it. So right now you can see under stress that it's getting up to a max core frequency here of 4 gigabytes across all of those 8 cores, but it will start to drop down a little bit. You see the whole time current limit throttling is going to be bouncing off that. So this is a restriction that they have put in place, probably to stop it from getting too hot, probably to just make sure that we're not going to end up damaging that little motherboard as well. So increasing those power limits, that's really going to do absolutely nothing there, unfortunately, with this one. I was kind of half expecting this, that it would be limited, being such a small form factor as well. Now the performance is really quick, as you'd mentioned. Those 8 cores, it does really well with all your kind of tasks. So demanding video files as well. The Intel UHD graphics, the 630, is going to handle all those just no problem. So I won't even show those because the performance is really, really fast. Native playback with that. So here is Geekbench 4, our score right here, and you can see that's a decent score, but really this should actually be a lot higher because I think of that limitation with the current limit throttling, and maybe because it is an engineering sample of CPU that they are using. So a single core score here. This is Geekbench 5 now, and multi-core. These are still very good scores though, for what it is, for such a tiny little PC. This is packing a huge amount of power in this. Pass mark. So we get a score just over 3,000, as you can see. And this right here is a user bench mark that I don't particularly like, but hey, a lot of people have been requesting lately to see this one. If I scroll right down, you can take a look at the performance here. And this does show us that the CPU is actually performing pretty well. This bench is just 91% here. So great, right at the top is 93. So it is performing as expected, even though, okay, being the fact that it is limited and it is that engineering sample, that's not really having any factor. Cinebench R15s, you can see the score there is 1457 CB, so close to 1500 isn't too bad for this particular CPU, but you could actually see a lot better if we didn't have those limitations that the manufacturer has imposed via the BIOS there, limiting it somewhat. And I've got Cinebench R20 as well, which is just finishing up here in the background, which is 3,275 points. So I will run here. I've got Adobe Premiere Pro. We're going to do some video editing, and I'll export an example of just 1 minute of footage, and we'll see how long that is going to take. So I've got a little preview screen here set to full, as you can see. If you wanted to be a little bit faster, you could set it to half, but this is just to demonstrate the performance of this. So this is not a particularly, well, for me anyway, a long video, but it's about 10 minutes, all those different clips that I've got in there with this particular review. And when you scrub ahead, you can see that that is fine, that is catching up with it, and no problems there with the performance, adding the different tracks in. Now, if it did have a dedicated GPU, it would be a little bit fast, I believe, this playback performance here, using, for example, NVIDIA's CUDA cores to boost this performance. It might be good, but this is not bad at all. So I'm going to export this particular video here, and I will use the default YouTube 4K preset that I do with all my other mini PCs and laptop reviews here. So I'm going to make sure that this is H.264, and we'll find our preset here, which is the 4K YouTube. And we're going to do just 1 minute of footage here. So I need to just size this up to 1 minute, which I have done here right now. As you can see, got 1 minute there of footage. So I'm going to hit here to start our timer, hit export, and we'll see how long 1 minute of footage will take. It should be quite quick. Okay, so we've got now about 10 seconds left, so 1 minute of footage. Once this disappears, this particular window, I will hit pause, and we'll get an exact gauge here on just how long it is going to take. This normally takes a few seconds more. It's 99, there we go. So about 1 minute and 29 seconds, 28 or so to encode 1 minute of 4K footage is not bad at all. Now that fan noise, I can barely hear it. It just comes on, and it's very, very light noise that is really non-offensive. You can hardly even hear it. Now a quick look at the BIOS, because there is not a lot to show you here. We have basically just our boot order settings and really a few other little bits and pieces here. So no complete unlocked BIOS settings, unfortunately, which would have been great. If they were completely unlocked to us, then of course we would have been able to maybe tweak the power limits and a few other things. Linux Mint, that is working as expected, but it doesn't seem to be detecting my wireless card, so you need to mess around with the drivers there, or perhaps swap the wireless card for one that you know is going to work. Ethernet is the only thing that is being detected here for my internet. Otherwise, the performance is very good as expected, running with the 8 cores and 16 threads that this has. So even with this warm-up round here, with that smoke, that all this Intel integrated GPU is capable of is about 39 frames per second. It's dipped down to. It's getting a little bit faster here, but this still doesn't have a lot of players currently on the server, so I expect that to actually dip right down. It's only a warm-up round as well, and that was just a bot. But about 50 frames per second. And yeah, I died. So that is at least playable. Now you could lower the resolution down a little bit if you wanted to keep a steady 60, which this should be able to do at least, of course, at 720p. But not really recommended for gaming. However, there is a solution though, because we've got those 2 NVMe slots in there. We can actually use an NVMe to PCIe GPU. I have reviewed one of those setups in my channel, and there's a link in the description of this video on how you could actually run a dedicated GPU with a lot of power connected up to this mini PC.
So as we saw there from my testing, that this is not going to perform as you'd expect for this 8-core CPU. If it was in a laptop, a desktop class gaming laptop, it would be performing quite a bit better than here. Now I did try undervolting. Undervolting doesn't seem to have any effect on performance boosting it whatsoever. You can increase the power limits and it doesn't again seem to boost them because the BIOS they have the manufacturer limited there, and this current limiting that I am seeing here is why the temperatures in the thermals are so good. You basically cannot get this thing to get hot or run into any thermal throttling or overheat, because it's only getting up to about 75 degrees, 73 degrees maximum with my ambient 25 degrees that I have right here. And really the fan noise as well is very, very good. Just like the previous 2 models, that you have to put your ear up to it when it's idle to actually hear the fan is going if you don't have the lid off, which I was showing the lid off here just so you could see the internals, but the fan noise is really good and excellent. Now performance wise, for what it is, very good. Now all the video files out there that you can throw at it will play great. Flawlessly, multitasking, really good as well. Depends on how much RAM you install, but you can take advantage of those extra cores there. Now video editing performance that I showed you, very good. It's not the fastest I have seen because of some of that current limit throttling there. Now where are the weaknesses? Well, Thunderbolt 3 would have been really great on this thing. I know that would have pushed the price up, but a lot of people probably would have gone, hey, I'll pay an additional 50 or 100 US even, I think, for Thunderbolt 3 so you could use an external enclosure. Now you can use an external GPU. I do have a video set up for that. And you can see an NVMe to external PCIe graphics card, and you can gain some really good gaming performance from that if you wanted to do that, but that kind of defeats the purpose of such a tiny little PC. Now it will work with Kodi great. Linux seems to be working fine, but it's going to be dependent, of course, on the wireless card. The drivers, you have to muck around and play around with that to find out which one is going to actually work best for you. So thank you so much for watching this review of the little 8-core mini PC here with its 16 threads. So many cores and such a small little body, and as I pointed out, those limitations there. It's kind of understandable why they've done it, but you know, at least you're aware now. If you're thinking of getting one, you know the full story. And thank you for watching this review. I hope to catch you in the up and coming next reviews from me. Bye for now.